Okay, got it. All right, welcome, folks. Welcome to this this gathering, online gathering, and this dialogue, really, with one another as we come together. This session really is trying to maybe open up a little bit discussion around what it is to create, maintain, have available to us a safe space for us culturally, spiritually, mentally, physically, for us to do our work. Of course, there's Penny. Hello. Many of us, work in mainstream spaces as well, so that's a consideration. And many of us are now very much creating our own Indigenous spaces. And so what does that mean? What are the things you think about? What are the things you want to make sure are present in those spaces? So these kind of considerations, and I would love everyone just to speak from their own experience and what's happening for them now. And everyone just, we'll just organically move through this. I may ask some questions at certain periods or at certain points in the discussion. But other than that, when you would like, you can introduce yourself. And since Christine was here first, maybe we'll allow her to go first.
All right. Okay, I'm Christine Friday, and I am in my home on Bear Island on Lake Temagami, and I've moved home it's been 3 years now. And I'm just doing a quick intro, though. I'm going to tell. I won't start back in a timeline since time began and how the Earth was formed. But, which is a good place to start, actually, because it actually reveals a lot. But this is a great topic. It's something that resonates with me right now. I'm actually experiencing some of this, what we're speaking about. And so I look forward to finding that those ways of healing, those ways of understanding, reflection, and my own responsibility, and also things that I don't have to carry as well inside of that, what belongs to other people. But yes, I'm very grateful to be in this circle, and I find that these discussions are really important. That we find ways to unite and connect. And it's going to be even better when we're in person together, and really looking forward to the seasons changing and that time visiting and gathering and coming together and uplifting each other. So I've always felt that this particular space is very safe, and I feel very open and relaxed to be myself. So I, give thanks to JP and to ArtsBuild and to Terry Lynn for providing that safe space. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure I could say more, but I think I'll pause. I think that's important in safe space, is also listening.
Penny, would you like to just introduce yourself and come into the circle?
Sure. Hi, my name is Penny Couchie. I'm here on Nipissing First Nation, on traditional homelands of the Nipissings, and on the shore of Lake Nipissing. And I'm the co-artistic director of Fun Matagse, and it's great to be here and to be part of this circle and this discussion. Did you want me to start talking, or you want just introduce myself and then?
Sure, if you'd like. Ange is in a little bit of transit right now, so sure, if you'd like, and you could start, jump right in if you'd like, and Christine can come in if you want, and Ange will come in. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Ange is going to join afterwards.
Yeah, she's listening. She's in transit, so she'll be home soon to be able to connect on camera and share.
Oh, I see. Okay, I understand. Okay, great, awesome. Apologies for being late and missing the opener. But because I missed the opener, maybe, I don't know, does Christine want to start?
Okay. Okay. All right.
Playing ball. Okay, got it.
Oh, there's, okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to do this on my phone while I'm in a rainstorm. Great. I'm in Montreal. Nice to meet you and see you all again. I'm in Montreal because I'm working on a couple projects. I'm working on, right now I'm facilitating a workshop with Studio 303. And it's kind of about Indigenous history here. I'm facilitating a whole bunch of activities and like kind of, you know, on and off the floor, having some fun, trying to make some art and put some names to some places. So yeah, I'm working with them. So one institution. We went go visit the Canadian Centre for Architecture today. So that's where I have an installation set up right now. And so I had yeah, working with them, totally different kind of institution. But they've been really nice and open, and kind of learned a lot about, you know, passing things on and a lot of like tricks on how to work with that kind of place. And then I'm also working right now with a big project with the Centaur Theatre, where I'm working on a history project. It's called Stone and Bone Spectacular. And it's a kind of about like archaeology and ancestral remains and history of the island. It's like, it's in there. So I have a whole native cast from across the region, and we're all going to be taking over the Centaur next week, in 2 weeks from now. So I'm really interested in listening to what you all have to say, because I am more full of questions than I am answers. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'm like, how do I do this?
So Penny, what we're opening up and looking at is what does it mean to have a safe space for us to work in culturally, spiritually, mentally, physically? You know, you being the creators of Anamatazic Big Menin Studio, you know, what are some of the elements that you wanted to make sure were there as you created that place and that space for not only yourselves, but for you to open to your community as well? So that's really sort of what we're looking at. You have, of course, you're there now at Anamatazic, but you have also a long history of working in mainstream spaces as well, and maybe sharing some of those kinds of experiences, which maybe taught you about what you want to make sure is there for your community.
Yeah. So for us here, I guess, you know, one of the things that whenever we're challenged with, and we get challenged all the time about safe spaces, and I think that's really, really important to never rest on what we've done in the past and think that that's going to be okay for the next group of people that come in. You know, when I guess first and foremost, like, you know, being part, sorry, I got distracted by Sid singing in the background. Human rights, like that's respecting people's human rights and freedoms, and you know, like looking at our and at what governs and guides us, and like starting with that as a basis, and then saying from there, now what else, you know? And a lot of times what we do say with the summer arts students is to create manifestos, or you know, like what is everyone asking for and needing, and then like starting at that place, because it's so different with each group. You know, one of the things that's coming up for me right now, I'm just thinking, oh, you know, like, so there was this, we had done a tour with Spider Woman Theatre, and that was our first tour with elders, and I was you know, just talking to my dad and saying, you know, how chaotic it was in the airport, you know, with different people, you know, asking where their bag was. Oh, you know, and I was trying to just say, you know, don't worry, you know, like I got it, or we got it, you know. But you know, my dad kind of stopped me and he said, you know, like you do have to understand how distressing that can be. You know, to not know where your carry-on is, you know, for an elderly person, and you know, like that people have different ways that they feel safe in especially when that space is traveling, you know. So it's not just about the space that you're in, but the space can be traveling, right? Like it can be an outdoor space or an indoor space or a touring. It can be on a bus, or, you know, like all of those things, you know. So spaces are constantly, for us, are constantly changing, and probably for a lot of people are constantly changing. So you kind of like, you bring that framework with you wherever you go. And so, you know, so one of the things that I learned on that tour was to, like, I was trying to guess what, you know, I was trying to guess all along the way and get in front of it, you know, how people, what would make people feel safe. But that's not my job. My job is to, you know, to ask, you know, and to provide a, to provide a process and a forum so that people can say, this is actually what I need to feel safe. This is what I'm asking for, and then it can become part of the negotiation. That needs to, you know, I can say, you know what, I can provide that, or no, I can't provide that. And so, like, let's keep talking about that to see what can be done. Because sometimes I can't, you know, like sometimes I just can't do that. And then so we just need to keep talking about how that can happen, but most of all, I just need to be upfront about it. Yeah, like, and I guess most importantly is not calling something, like not labeling something like, this is a safe space, you know, and then proceeding from there, because it's like, man, I don't think it is until we've all agreed that it's a safe space, you know. So, like, you know, not being so not cavalier, but like not being so quick to determine if the space is safe for everyone. You know, and then also too, like one of the things that, you know, like through the years, like I've thought a lot about is, and I guess this is also part of that, you know, like, you know, yeah, what am I responsible for? What you know, what am I responsible for? What can I actually do? You know, like not assuming responsibility for others, for others' safety. You know, in some instances where it's actually not like I'm actually putting them in danger, and I'm talking about emotional danger or physical danger, or, you know, like danger in many different ways. If I don't provide a process or you know, yeah, provide a process where they can look after their own safety, you know, like, and I definitely, like, when I think back to, you know, maybe like 20 years ago when I, you know, teaching 20 years ago, I think, oh, wow, like I wouldn't, those are things I would not say now, you know. You know, I would really get, you know, like ask people to really check in with whether or not they feel safe. And, you know, I just, because, you know, we are not, like, well, I'm just speak for myself. I'm not, you know, not a mind reader, and not a, you know, I don't have, you know, don't have all the information at all. And, you know, if I don't continuously reinforce, a process that's that is encouraging sovereignty and self-determination and autonomy, then we're getting into really, like for me, really shaky ground.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow. And that's a wrap. Perfect. Yeah, you spark a lot of reminders, Penny, when you're sharing. Do you want me to go ahead, JP?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And thinking about a safe space and times that I think it makes me think of times I haven't felt safe, times I've felt oppressed, times I've felt liberated and free. And that can happen in many settings as well. Just because you're inside of community doesn't mean that you're going to feel safe either. And sometimes or being in the inner, being in the core of an urban space, there's all these different dynamics that play into a setting that will create you'll need different kinds of support systems depending on who you are, where you are, and where you're at in your life. And so I think from what Penny's saying, it's multi-dimensional, but then it can also be quite simple too. I know for me to feel safe, I like to be in an environment where there's especially when creating, where there's no alcohol or drugs in that environment. And I think that's really important. I remember working like that very much in the 90s when we were at the Banff Center. And that was, even with Center for Indigenous Theatre, that was always very, that was also very clear. And when you're learning about ceremony and picking up and gathering teachings for your bundle, on your travels as a young person, I gravitated to those kinds of spaces and places because that's what I yearned for in my spirit. And I know when I go and dance at a place like Big Medicine Studio, I feel so safe there. And I feel like I'm able to tap into ancestors and it's a place where you can open up and it's okay to stay open. And I think that's important too, like, because when you open up as an artist or when you're in those creative, when you're creating, you can become very vulnerable. So I think it's also too, having that support system around you is important in creating safe space. When I work with young people, I like to pass them on the teachings or inspire them with your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being and what connects to those. And even though we might not, we don't feel that balance every day, but it's something to work towards. I know my mom has always shared with me, like when I wake up in the morning, and I've been doing it more and more, I keep remembering, like I sit quietly at the end of my bed and I ask for protection and I ask to be guided into what I'm supposed to do for that day or for this day. And that's how I create safe space for myself and for my being, walking through the world, in this multi-dimensional world, which seems to be getting even more multi-dimensional. Even this week, so like where the dream realm, like I used to think, oh yeah, it's a dream realm, the spirit and the present. Now they're all kind of really intermingling together quite strongly. But I'm really enjoying it. And places where you can feel that you can be free to be yourself, that you feel that we can empower each other, that, you know, that's like breaking down that hierarchy system where we're all eye to eye. No one person's better than another. Each one of us has a gift to offer. Together we create that whole. And that's almost like taking your place inside of community and understanding your gifts and acknowledging someone else's gifts inside of that circle too. Because even and I've experienced this so recently, is the oppression can come from, and that you know, not feeling safe is when and people throwing energy or their own you know, not being able to evolve when they stick to these policies or these procedures, that because they're afraid, the fear of and not wanting to release and let go and have compassion. I think compassion is really important inside of and connecting to our natural laws, our natural ways of being, and understanding each other is also very important. So I guess there's a practical, there's a spiritual element, and yeah, and I keep thinking about listening too, is important, being able to listen to each other. Mm-hmm. I keep finishing off with that, but
let me ask you about this. So there's a couple of things in there that have jumped forward, but a really interesting point is you're saying you're starting to understand what you can carry and what perhaps you know that you need to rely on others for. Could you tell me about some of those not necessarily roles, but you know, who have come or what has come to help you create and maybe in a more collective manner that space, whether it be, you know, whether it be people or teachings or, you know, relation to the land. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like you're finding a way to rely on other things to help with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it has to, for me, it has a lot to do with ceremony and living a good life, like living, not that that's a piece, you know, not that that's a hard life. That's a hard choice to make. It's not the easy. And I think that's part of it too, is choosing the hard path of, you know, Penny was mentioning how you're always learning, you're always challenged. So in that harder choice is where we evolve. I think people get stuck when they don't want to change, or they don't want to, there's fear. And I don't know, it's not, I think it's not easy, but I just, and I'm starting to think it's already laid out. I mean, I know, and I'm just trying to catch up. So like, I'm just trying to figure it out, and it's already happened. But that's just, I think too, uniting with like minds, like beings, or yeah, and Penny.
Yeah, like building on that, like, you know, ceremony. One of the things that I think about with different projects that I've done, you know, like when I look back on different things, I think, oh, that, you know, the safety was there for that, you know, like and you know, and people expressed, oh, there was a real sense of safety, or you know, even if it was very sort of there was lots of risk taking emotionally. There was, you know, a lot of that, but overall they expressed a great sense of safety and security, like within the whole project. You know, one of the things that I look at is like, you know, I think about ceremony. I think about, say, you know, like, you know, when you have different people that sit in different doorways, and you know that those people, like you put people in those different doorways, and you say, or you invite them to sit in those different doorways, and those people, it's because of their knowledge, like it's because of their you know, their historical knowledge, or their traditional ecological knowledge, or their their spiritual knowledge or their knowledge of the language. Like there's you know, when you're surrounded by those people that are helping to protect those doorways, to you know, facilitate the information that comes from those doorways, you know, the information knowledge that's coming from those doorways, then like that kind of it builds on itself, and it creates a greater sense of safety. You know, like we recently had a group here, and I was just talking about you know, just you know, how hard it is when I'm in different spaces, like say I go somewhere, you know, by myself, and I'm in a different space, you know, and you know, someone says, oh, you know, like you know, we do our introductions, and somebody says, this is a safe space, and I think, you know, maybe not yet. Like, you know, like let's you know, ask everybody. First of all, do they feel like it's a safe space? And then, or what are we going to do to work towards creating a safe space, you know, every day, you know, for this next time that we're together, you know, and then with, oh, got distracted by the kids. They were having a kids class here, so I might get crazy. But yeah, like, so when, if I'm away from, you know, from my home, I think, oh, you know, it'd be so great if so-and-so is here, or it would be so great if we were eating together, that like sharing meals together the way that we can when we're here. Because there's, you know, those things are important. Like they're really important. They're important that we feel nourished, like, you know, when we're in a process, you know, that we're eating well, that we have that we feel good in the place that we're staying, that we you know, and that everybody feels that they can talk about that, and if they don't feel good in the place that they're staying, that we quickly remedy that, and you know, that because all those things will play a big role in how we experience our time together. So yeah, but you know, but a lot of that comes from you know, participating in ceremony and going, oh, okay, yeah, like this is what you know, our knowledge keepers, like this is what they've passed on to us, like this is how we do it. You know, and we do, like here we like we have many different elders that come in and that we talk to. We have an elders luncheon that we, you know, that we listen to their suggestions and their ideas and their teachings. And but I guess, yeah, the other thing is that it's important is, like, even though that certain people are sitting in those different doorways, and you go, you know what, this person's really great in that doorway, you know, like they're really, like they will, you know, I guess I'll just, I guess an example of that is, like, I know that one of the women that work with us here, that if somebody comes out of the studio, you know, that she's going to be there and she's going to say, hey, you look like you want it, like you look like you could use a tea, you know, like that kind of thing. And she's just so great in that way, you know, like, but, you know, because she, like, that's, you know, we, like, everyone that's working with us is sharing that same vision, you know, of what we're here to do, you know, the good work that we're here to do, that we're attempting to do. Yeah.
This is a bit of a continuation of an earlier session with the Bajamajig, and what really stood out for me, one of the things that was shared was about the process when you know, new students come into the space and into their journey within that, and how that space is set up to support them in finding their own way. Because not every, you know, you're not taking the whole group and moving it through the pedagogy, and you know, at the end it's more of a space where there's listening and then responding in whatever way that is needed in that time. So a lot of it is around process, and both of you have also shared a little bit about process. But maybe you could continue on some of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I hear you both saying about identifying our gifts inside of the space or inside of the circle, and that trusting. But I wanted to talk about challenge though, or like you know, times that we've been challenged. Like I have, even in beautiful spaces, you know, stuff can happen. And so what do you do when those challenges arise? That you take the time, like I've been in that space at Big Medicine Studio before. And so we stop and we shift and we circle and we go through it and we do rounds. And the end result might not happen, but there's an attempt to work through and not to tuck things away. I guess is what it's reminding me of as well. Mm-hmm. Identifying gifts, and that's the uniqueness of even in a challenge, there's going to be different approaches to challenges and to how do we resolve those challenges. Mm-hmm. When that safe space gets tough, or because they always do, or we go through those challenges. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think even when you're hosting people, like, you know, and it's different when you're at different stages of your life, or maybe different vulnerabilities in your life, but I really take a lot of pride in, you know, making sure people feel that there's kindness, and that they feel protected, that they're going to have you know, Penny was talking about like feeling like you're going to doing your best to provide that, you know, a good pillow. I don't know how I'm going to say good pillow, but like like a good place to sleep. I think those are important. Like you always give your good places to sleep in your home. You give those up, or you're thinking of how to care for people, and that love and that kindness is really is important, and that prayer and that acknowledgement and that protection. Yeah, maybe Angie's here. Maybe she has those answers now. Oh, I don't mean to put you in the spot there. It's bringing you in.
Here we go. Sorry about that. I don't like using my phone for this. It's a new phone and it's giving me so much trouble. And my computer cable was left in Toronto. So I'm doing everything on my phone for the next 2 days until I leave here. So safe spaces, always have extra cables. I think it's true though, you know what I mean? The best places have adapters and dongles and all the things you need to make your stuff happen. Yeah, just jumping in. But I think, yes, those kind of things like assistance in places like the technical things are always stuff that I'm like really aware of. Like it's today and every single day, like people have kind of been there just to be like, hey, the Bluetooth on the speaker is funky. Like you have to hold down the button here and do this. Like it actually makes a really big difference to have somebody in the space who's like able to guide you through the intricacies of using the space and like be there on a regular basis to be able to, like, you know, they're there every day when you arrive. That kind of thing, like not leaving you alone in a way. But at the same time, like, yeah, leaving you alone if you need. I think that's a really big, important thing that I've been trying to figure out. Kind of like, yeah, just asking for the alone time that I need, I guess, in institutions, asking for time to just be with my artists. Yeah, I don't have, I think if you prompt me, I'll talk.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, JP. Sorry, just to bring me back to the question and then I'll answer it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm also thinking about some of the earlier discussion as well, and I'm wondering how seasonal cycles affect some of your process as well, and how that could even, in a way, make things safe.
I actually just facilitated a workshop at with this weird company. So you all know, like, probably know Dance Makers. They're doing like a big redo, reshift, trying to figure out what's happening next. And so they put a whole bunch of money into hiring different artists to meet with their board and meet with their participants and all the people and try to figure out what to do next. So we just went around their calendar of events and tried to put it in relation to kind of like an annual cycle of like how things should operate kind of here in the natural cycle of things, looking at different, you know, harvesting cycles and planting cycles and time when people need to like stop and reflect, time when people need to mourn, time when people need to pass on information or kind of like name the babies, we called it. So I was just thinking about that kind of, I've been playing a lot of games like that with regards to the seasons and the cycles of like how institutions can kind of support our natural energies, and being like keenly aware that like there's things in the winter that we don't want to do, but there's also things in the winter that we need to do and like shake ourselves up. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that with this other institution. It's this Center for Artistic Intelligences. It's a weird like one person's company that they, you know, send artists in to do investigations. So yeah, so that kind of work I think is really real.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Christine or Penny, can you comment on that?
Yeah. Can you say the question one more time? I did. I was like, oh, maybe I'm about to answer something that you didn't ask.
Well, what I'm trying to support is I realize this is all relational. It's holistic. It's multidimensional, right? So one of the things that I was really struck in the earlier session was about how rooted within that traditional calendar many of these processes are and can be for us. Yeah. How does that contribute?
Yeah. You know, yeah, like the last when Sid and I were talking recently, just talking about you know, one of the things that we can look back on the last 16 years and go, okay, this is what we've done for 16 years. Like we're you know, we're probably going to continue doing this, like, you know, say with the maple syrup harvest, or, you know, which then, you know, runs into the pickerel and then runs into the smelts. And then that, you know, like we know when we're, that when people are going to come by and when we're going to have our own hides. And then, you know, then there's going to be, you know, the hide tanning workshops. And, you know, like, so like we, you know, we, like, or the birch bark harvesting or the root, you know, the pulling roots or different, you know, like we know that's gonna happen. And we're gonna want to, you know, maybe we can't do it every year, like, you know, maple syrup, yes. We're not gonna stop doing that, but that's gonna happen every year. But you know, with the but, you know, some of the things that are more strenuous, like, you know, that maybe that'll happen every second year, and we'll kind of like alternate between the different both like traditional ecological knowledge and the cultural knowledge that we want to make sure that we continue to learn about so that we can pass it on to others. That, you know, like there's that part. And then there's the part of, you know, sometimes that, you know, we have these big discussions about, you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like we don't have to, you know, like we carry these items, like these sacred items, like, you know, the drums that we carry, you know, like the bundles that we carry, or the, you know, so, you know, we already have ceremonies for that. Like we have ceremonies for the feasting of the bundles, for the, you know, the feast for our ancestors, the, you know, the feasting of the drums, the feast, you know, like we already have these ceremonies, and they're already within the within the cyclical, the annual cyclical, what am I trying to say? the thing, yeah. No, they're already there. And
our trip around the sun. Yeah.
Trip around the sun is, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so there's lots of, yeah, we don't have to reinvent the wheel in that way, but you know, but it is to kind of look and see what, you know, like what feels right to us, what feels good to us, what, you know, what can we commit to? Because that's also a big thing. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, we've been faced with that too, is just like kind of going, actually, that's a big consideration around safety is, and I, you know, this kind of just reiterates something that I talked about before. It was just like, do we have the capacity to engage in fully in this whole process to ensure the safety of ourselves and everyone in the process? You know, that sometimes we've had to say no. Like sometimes we've had to say no to requests because we just do not have it's not clear the support that is going to take us right from the opening to the closing, you know, because that's really, really important. If you're going to open the door, you have to close the door, you know, like that. And you know, that's something that you know, like I've definitely encountered in different, you know, projects that I've you know, I've come home and then 2 weeks later, you know, just I woke up and thought, oh, I forgot to close the door, you know, and then, you know, so, and then kind of had to go back and call everybody, talk to everybody, you know, like, and do all the things that I didn't do, you know, just in my haste to get home and you know, be done with it. But you know, like you have to take care of those things. Like you have to, if you open something up, and you have to take care of it right to the, you know, right to the closing. And then so knowing if you have the capability and you know, to do that, you know, that's very, very important. But you know, like that's with every, like, you know, that, I mean, that itself goes back into the, you know, like into the, you know, into the into working with the seasons as well, you know, like that, you know, definitely have been in situations where we started something and then, you know, another project was on the heels of it, and in the, you know, trying to time things right, because, you know, you never know what the weather's going to be like, and you could end up with a rotting hide outside, or, you know, like it just, you know, like how do you take care of it all, right? And be mindful, because I think that's one thing that we're really challenged with, is that there's the natural time, and then there's the you know, everyone's schedule, you know, and those two things don't always go together. Yeah.
Christine?
When I think of what is natural, even, you know, when you're closer to the land outside of a rural, and you know, because the weather will dictate what you may have a plan, but then the weather, and it can happen too in the city, like, it's actually going to know there's a different, it just seems to be stronger outside because you have different options of existence. But what my experience where I am, the weather tells all, like, and whether you can go somewhere or, you know, kind of is the guide of ultimately what is going to happen. And I remember sitting, it was a day actually last week where and also health and well-being of someone's nature and cycle as well. I think that's important in creating safe space and acknowledging, not also thinking about other people, but yourself. Like, you need that time to nurture your being, and whether, you know, and I like throwing those, you know, having a bath, a cedar bath in late morning when you just something you wouldn't do at that time of day. So doing, thinking of health and well-being. And I started, actually, when that happened to me, I think it was last week, I started to feel like when I was doing that, like having a bath and you know, not at night, which is usually where I would do something like that. And just like accepting like your own health and well-being in that moment, like, this is what I need for myself. And then that's where I felt, oh, this is, you know, Indian time. Like, this is really what it means. Like, that's what it meant for me. Like, this is what I have to stop and do for myself right now, because in order to continue to go around the sun, this is what I need. And I think that's really healthy to include that into your workspace and into your life. And when you start to add different dimensions of people in your workspace that we're acknowledging, and that we do give that time and that space and that trust, that maybe things don't have to necessarily happen, but if we look after ourselves and we take the time to look after ourselves and ask for that, and give that to ourselves, that in that process, whatever is supposed to be revealed or whatever we're supposed to accomplish is going to happen. So yeah, trusting in process, and not being in such control of everything, leaving room to not oppress and to let it be free, let the spirit and the journey of existing, reveal and guide, and more through the intuitive impulses. And that's where you see those intuition or serendipity, and, you know, whether you get whether it's through dream or what you see, or that inspiration, or that feeling, you're able to take the time to connect to those as well within your own cycle. I was like an abstract painting. Felt like I was saying, I was describing an abstract painting. Yeah. And having fun, throw that in there too. Have some fun, and the laughter and the healing and breaking out, taking up that space again, reclaiming that space, even inside of our own communities. It can actually be pretty oppressed, but, you know, you're taking your place in the circle and not being afraid to be big again. Yeah.
Let me ask this: what do you, each of you, choose to root or ground your work? Some work, you know, what do you do? And Christine, you're just talking a little bit about that. What you do personally to ground yourself and to prepare yourself and to care for yourself as you engage in creative process. So now you're also inviting other people in. You know, Penny, you do that. It's sort of concentric circles. So, what are some of the things that you've chosen for yourself to make it safe for yourself?
JP, before we jump on that, I just noticed Linda has her hand up. Okay. So maybe she might have something to add just before we move to the new point.
Miigwech, I appreciate the opportunity. Well, first of all, hello everyone. I guess just listening to the conversation, and I appreciate the opportunity to hear from other perspectives, because the technical part I've never really thought of in terms of even guests coming to our space and ensuring that they have everything that they need, even overnight, as they're arriving, or they're arriving. I make special efforts to make sure to know that they are thought about and welcomed, and at times even leave like food. But the technical part I've just never really thought about. So I think that's really important. And I think about the because I'm formally trained in a Western way, even thinking about some of the, I guess, political components, like even though we're not political, but is it even a safe space to politically go into, and making sure that, those are things that I'll have to think about. And as we're engaging with people, and having some of our staff go into different environments, and, just arming them with awareness so that they can help take care of themselves as they're away from home. And so this conversation is helping remind me of those kind of components, so that not only are they coming from a safe space, but as they're transferring into a different space, that it might not always be safe, but to maintain as much safety as possible. So like Christine was talking about that abstract picture, and Penny was identifying, taking care of that responsibilities ourselves again. We've, in our operations, we've talked about the bendis, we're responsible for ourselves. So, having that forethought. And I don't necessarily like checklists, but at the same time, I'm like, I have to put a checklist out there to make sure that, we have most of the bases covered, so that it's as comfortable as possible for people. Mm-hmm. I guess that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Mm-hmm. So there's not much time left here in the last few minutes. What is essential for you? Just kind of going back to that question. What is essential for you to be able to, that you draw into your circle for this?
Okay. So one of the things I think about is this time that I was going up north to do a creative process workshop, and I had asked my mom, who's a registered mental health worker and counselor, and I asked her what was important, because I was nervous, I was really nervous. This was quite a while ago, and I was nervous about digging, and then what would happen if how do I deal with that when I open a can of worms, and or when someone else opens a can of worms, and it was perhaps not my intention, or so anyways, one of the things that she said is, what she does is to, or what she's been taught is to remind people, what makes you happy, what makes you feel protected, what makes you, how many kids do you have, or these things, like, tell me about your family too, who are you, like this kind of thing. And then I had been talking to my Auntie Carol about it as well, and she was talking about a tree, and she's just talking about the canopy, and how the canopy of that tree, it protects the roots so that it doesn't so that the rain doesn't hit the trunk, the base of the trunk, and then rot it, so that it's still allowing for, it needs that rain, and it needs the water, but it also has to protect itself from that as well. And then she was just talking about all the ways in which it's both receiving, but then also protecting, receiving and shielding at the same time. Anyways, I came up with this this visual exploration of the tree, you know, and just kind of like, that's what I started with, so that I could always, and then we put that all around us so that I could say, okay, you know, when we like go down, come up for joy, go down, come up for joy, you know, but that's something that I do with myself. Like I do that with myself, is that I, when Christine was talking about play, you know, how important play is, you know, and in those moments, or something that, yeah, that Carol used to talk about like, serpent teachings, you know, like you put your belly to the ground, but, you know, like, you know, in those times when you don't know what else to do, you put your belly to the ground, you know, but I think about what that means, like the meaning of that, you know, all the things that help to ground us, that help to protect us, that help to, you know, I can't name that for somebody else, but what I can do is I can facilitate an exploration so that somebody can name that for themselves, and then they can look at it when they are feeling, unsafe, or you know, or they need a reminder. They can go and look and say, oh yeah, you know, okay, I actually do know. I have lots and lots of strategies for reestablishing my sense of safety, you know, and you know, and then I can also have that in my like I can offer, but I can also just help people remind themselves of everything that they know, of the abundance of information that they already carry.
Beautiful. Thank you. Christine?
I keep, when I looking on my note, like just like, you know, when you're just inspirations, when you're writing and you're sitting with people, which I like in this today with you guys, is identifying gifts, which Penny is talking about. I guess creating a safe space when you identify the gifts inside of a space are your own gifts, and it helps to create that dynamic. I know I have to align my energy, and I do that through a physical practice, and I do that through drinking water. I do that through getting rest. So looking after myself, making sure what I'm eating, and having, you know, it's always incredible to be able to eat fish and wild meat, and that kind of that nourishment is also important. Using medicines or whatever that is that you carry in your in culture, in your culture or our culture, or whoever is sitting in the circle virtually too. I just and yes, trusting your intuition, I think, is when you get yourself into that place of balance. And I don't live in balance, but that work, then being able to trust in your intuition to be guided. And so wellness, creativity, natural law, love, well-being. I think I already said that. Yeah, neglect.
Thank you. Ange?
Wait, hold on, sorry. I'm like, did that unmute?
Can hear you.
Okay, great. I didn't realize my phone is weird. I'm thinking about some of the things you guys said. The thing that keeps coming to me is I keep saying meet them at the door, because there's this kind of thing that Richard Hill was a curator at the Royal Ontario Museum for a while in the 90s. And he said the old ladies won't come in because the building is weird looking. So if you want to have a building where, if you want to invite a group of old ladies from like wherever they were coming from, the native ladies, like he had to meet them at the cafe across the street because they won't come inside the building, right? So there's like institutional, just physical barriers because the buildings are weird looking. And because once you walk in, you don't know where to go. So that kind of literal guiding by the hand when you're coming into a place, why not? You know, it's good, especially if you're inviting somebody in. How many people get lost in parking lots in institutions, and then they're late for things, and like we deal with that all the time. So it's hard for me to invite in senior artists and people I want to talk to. So I have to put, you have to put all the extra steps in and make sure that the support's there. And it's hard because I want to be in the room, but I also want to be out there. So relying on your institutional partners to actually kind of be those people and to figure out like who's nice because we talk, right? We all know who's nice in each one of these organizations, and then who to go to get things done, and then who to like who's friendly, who's able to actually be on the ground, and who will help you do things, like who's willing to wipe things down for you. It's actually, you know, that kind of work. I think that idea about trusting in the process, preparation versus intuition, is kind of thing that I'm always struggling with. Space for work versus space for fun. Especially when I'm working with my own community lately, like it's hard to get people to stop talking. So you know, it's important that we kind of have that space though, where we're like, we're here to do this thing. So let's just do it, right? We can have fun while we're doing it, but let's do it. So it's been interesting to me, like to be working with people that are like from my town and trying to, you know, still do stuff and not be too hard about it. But, you know that my plan will change and know that the time is really weird and everything's going to be thrown up in the air, but I have like a lot of options in my backpack. So I could like throw and like exactly like I think it's really important to reference who you're pulling from. So if I'm pulling from other people and artists and working in this community too, like I pull from Penny all the time, but I always say I'm pulling from her, you know, and it gets back to her. And I think that's really important that they know that I'm not, you know, it's really important that the work that I'm doing is within a community setting that is bigger than me. And what I do in the space is going to be aware. People are going to know what I'm doing. It's not like I'm working alone and we don't work in silos. So being really aware that like how I'm operating inside and outside the spaces is also like really important for me. It's kind of the safety thing, like that I'm able to have some space from my performers and from my creative partners. And it's important that I kind of like, you know, keep some distance with my personal life. But I have this, I like to be really prepared. I like to have a lot of activities ready, I facilitate a lot. And I think just kind of like, even just the nitty gritty stuff, like the limits of, I guess, like when I'm inviting certain artists in, say like I invited an artist in for one project I'm doing right now that I know has no money and I know he's on welfare, right? So I am doing all these little workarounds to make sure that I pay him in cash every day after he comes to a session. And I'm gonna, you know, just claim it myself. It's not the best, but it's the option I can get when I need him to be in the space, right? I'm also bringing lunch every day for him that I'm making for myself also. So there's like all these extra little things that I'm doing to make sure that the people that I want in the space can be there, because they can't be there otherwise. I'm giving them Ubers. I'm like making sure that, you know, we're modifying stuff because of mobility problems. And it's like, how much of that work is like constantly throwing, you know, it throws a wrench in your plans, but it's got to happen. So I think, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to do this all and actually try to figure out what I can give constantly to the partners and to the organizations and the places I'm working at, because like I'm one of those, you know, like all of us trying to spin all the plates, but like I don't need to be doing that. I want to be the artist in the room. And so what can we do to pass those things on to our partners and to other people that are in the space so that I can just do art? I haven't done it yet. I don't know what it feels like yet. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll close. It goes by too fast. I mean, I could listen to you folks all day. But if anyone wants to just share any words in closing, if Terry Lynn wants to ask any questions, or she's been the co-convener on this project, yeah, let's open it for that way to finish off.
I'm like JP. I just like to hear all of what you have to share, because you're living it and you're experiencing it on a daily basis. So the wisdom that you bring to these types of conversations is very powerful and very thought-provoking. I think we just saw that in the chat. Yeah, so I thank you all very much, Nyawagoa Chimikwech, for your sharing and your passion and compassion, which is it shines through. And although, yeah, I always kind of think about safe spaces in a way that's like yours, Penny, in the sense, it's got to evolve, it's got to prove itself. I think, this is a public forum, but I certainly feel that within the ABO project that we have put together as we're kind of wrapping it up now in this phase, it really did prove that it can be done to create that healthy family community within that ecology. So it is a possibility virtually, let alone, you know, the opportunity would be amazing if we could all get together again in person, and have that final circle maybe as part of the project, and round out all of the, you know, all of the wonderful information that's been shared. So Nyao Goa to everyone here again for coming and for listening and being part of this sharing opportunity. Yeah.
I was going to say party at Penny's. No.
All right. I'll put the tea on.